we are back with 843 TV, and now we have Phil Cromer, who is a city councilman here in Beaufort, joining us. Thank you very much. So I want to start with a hot topic, affordable housing.
It's a very big issue in this area. I think that if you look around and realize that most of the employees in the city of Beaufort, for instance, and who work for the city of Beaufort, have to commute some considerable distance to come to work, that it's important that we have available housing and affordable housing for them. If we don't have that, it would compromise some of our economic development goals in the sense that we wouldn't have success in attracting people here because there's no place to live. It would also hurt our local economy. So it's in our best interest to take a look at this affordable housing issue and try to do something to alleviate it.
When we were talking with Stephen in the former segment, we're talking about educating the youth, the relationship with USCB and TCL, but the reality is if they do that to keep them here and there's nowhere that they can afford to live, then it's really of no avail.
So what are there are there tangible steps being put in place?
There are. As a matter of fact, the town for the last couple of years has been working with private investors who have low income housing tax credits, and they're developing projects around the city. We have one going on right now on Rebo Road. We've also donated city land to both Habitat for Humanity and to the Beaufort Housing Authority, and they are having 2 houses being built by Habitat and 8 apartments being built by the Beaufort Housing Authority for affordable housing. We're also stepping up a task force, and that was the purpose of this, is to look into what can the city and what should the city do in terms of affordable housing. What areas do we need to look into, for instance, our regulatory issues with zoning, with building codes, with fees, with permitting process, financing tools, incentives, all that type of thing to make sure that we can create an available housing stock and an affordable housing stock for our citizens.
It sounds like a long-term project.
It is.
So break down maybe some of the steps a little more
The short
for us.
term and then the midterm, because I think this is really important for everybody to understand this.
Well, short term, I think the task force is going to look at what can the city do in terms of regulation to make it easier to have affordable housing to take place. I think long term we need to look at purchasing land. One of the things might be a land bank. I know that the county is in the process of hiring a consultant to do a housing trust fund for the region, which would include Jasper and Beaufort counties. And I think that as part of that, we need to look at a land bank, because the cost of land is really the biggest impediment, I think, to affordable housing in the area. And so that's what we need to do, is try to find some available land and locate it close enough to the workplace that we can put in affordable housing.
Do those areas exist as far as your knowledge of the area?
Well, in the city of Beaufort, there's not too many large pieces of property where that would work, but there are probably some on the fringe of the town that we could do it. I think you have to take a look at the work centers and draw a line around it and say, okay, in this area, where can we put affordable housing? Where would it work?
So is this task force in place now, or are we still trying to put it together?
There have been 9 people selected for the task force. We will be meeting on the first Wednesday of each month, beginning December the 4th, except for January. It'll be January 14th because the 1st is New Year's Day. But we'll be meeting once each month. We're going to look at all these different topical areas each month and try to flesh them out, and then hopefully by the summertime, late summer, we'll have a report of recommendations to go to council.
And then would the public have availability to this information at that time in the summertime?
Well, all the meetings will be open to the public.
Oh, okay.
So they can come and listen in. And yes, when the report comes out, it has to go to council, and council will probably have a public hearing on anything we decide to do.
When do the meetings take place? How can people find out the schedule?
Well, they'll take place here in this planning conference room the first Wednesday of each month at 3 o'clock. It'll last probably an hour and a half. And as I said, we're going to start out with a sort of an overall view of the housing problem, and then we're going to drill down in each of these different areas, with land availability, incentives, financing tools, all that. One topic a month and flesh them out pretty good, and then hopefully by the summer we'll have a report we can give to council.
This is very exciting, but one thing I do want to share with our audience is that, Phil, you have been a part of this community for a long time. I mean, you have long lineage between here and Charleston with your wife. So you've seen a lot of development, you've seen a lot of frustration. Do you feel there's a momentum going forward now? Do you see that?
I do, and we had two studies done. Basically, we had the Beaufort 2030 visioning that we looked at long-term trends for the next 10 years, and out of that and out of our strategic plan for the city, the affordable housing issue was at the top of the list. So that visioning plan that we did, we had 90 constituents came in and gave their thoughts on what was going on, and so that was one of the top topics. So it's on people's minds.
And the reality is this is not a city of Beaufort issue only, it's a low country issue. It expands to Bluffton, Hilton Head, Jasper County. It's a collective area that this is really a struggle. It's
really a national problem, but mostly for us in the coastal area, it's a big, big problem because a lot of people moving here, it's driving the cost of housing up. And so yes, it's a huge issue for us.
Well, we know that those of us who live here, how incredible it is to live here. So it's great to know that we're taking strides to help that for the future generation to be able to afford the luxuries here, just to be able to live in the environment. So we thank you for all the efforts that you are working on towards making that happen. And you all stay right here. We're going to be back in just a minute with more 843 TV from Beaufort City Hall.